somewhere in the Western imagination, especially in the minds of those who grew up during the Cold War, the word Russia still echoes with the weight of an empire. It conjures memories of mushroom clouds, red flags, and grim-faced leaders watching missiles being dragged along the Red Square. But this vision belongs to a different era, to a different country altogether. The Soviet Union is gone, and to mistake today's Russia for the superpower of old is not only misleading, it distorts the present and blinds us to the truth of history. Let's start with the sheer scale of what the USSR actually was. Imagine a federation sprawling across 11 time zones, touching the Arctic, stretching deep into Central Asia, and brushing the borders of Eastern Europe. The Soviet Union was made up of 15 republics, each with its own distinct identity. Russia was the largest and, yes, the core of the Union, but it was still only one part of a whole. By the time the USSR collapsed in 1991, it had nearly 290 million people. Russia accounted for about 147 million of them, barely over half. Ukraine, the second most populous republic, had over 52 million. Uzbekistan had around 20 million. Kazakhstan followed with 17 million. Then came Belarus with about 10 million, Azerbaijan with 7 million, Georgia with 5.5 million, and so on. Lithuania, Moldova, Latvia, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Armenia, Turkmenistan, and Estonia. Each of these republics is now a sovereign nation. But population alone doesn't explain the might of the USSR. Its power rested on industrial capacity, centralized command, a massive standing army, and an ideological reach that extended from Havana to Hanoi. It was a state that could, for decades, stand toe-to-toe with the United States, not because of Russia alone, but because of the combined weight of all its republics. The rocket scientists who launched Sputnik weren't only Russians. The engineers who built the MiGs, the chemists who ran the laboratories, the writers who filled Soviet libraries, many were Ukrainian, Armenian, Belarusian, Georgian, Kazakh. The Soviet machine was a collaboration, often reluctant, often forced, but undeniably multilateral. So when someone in the West, even with good intentions, refers to today's Russia as if it were the Soviet Union, they are equating a single country with an entire former empire. It's like calling modern-day Britain the British Empire, ignoring the fact that India, Australia, Canada, and dozens of others are no longer under its crown. Take the economy as a concrete example. At its height, the USSR was the second largest economy in the world by many measures, sustained by state-run industries and centralized planning. Yes, it was inefficient. Yes, it struggled to provide consumer goods, but it could produce tanks, satellites, aircraft, nuclear submarines, and it could do so at a scale unmatched by any nation other than the United States. Now compare that with Russia today. In 2024, its nominal GDP is around $1.9 trillion. That's not pocket change, but it places Russia below Italy and Canada. The entire economy of Russia is smaller than the GDP of California, which sits at around $3.9 trillion. It's also smaller than Texas and only modestly ahead of countries like South Korea or Spain. This is not the economic profile of a global superpower, it is the footprint of a large regional player. In contrast, if you were to combine the modern GDPs of all 15 former Soviet republics, you'd find a much stronger figure. But of course, that number is now irrelevant. These countries are no longer tied together. They have separate governments, military alliances, trade partnerships, and ambitions. Many of them look westward, not toward Moscow. Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia are in the European Union. Ukraine is fighting, quite literally, for its future away from Russia's shadow. The mistake of seeing Russia as the Soviet Union reborn isn't just an intellectual slip, it's emotional, cultural, even poetic. Consider Sting's famous Cold War-era song, Russians. The line that stuck with so many, "I hope the Russians love their children too," wasn't really about Russians. It was about the looming threat of nuclear apocalypse, the faceless Soviet enemy that terrified a generation. But when that line is repeated today, in the context of modern Russia, it carries an echo of that fear, as if the bear had never truly gone into hibernation. Yet the Russia of 2024 is not aiming for ideological conquest. It is not exporting communism to Africa or Latin America. It is not launching astronauts into space aboard new generation spacecraft designed by multi-republic consortia. It is not building nuclear power plants in 14 countries at once, nor is it running a centrally planned economy capable of sustaining a global ideological war. This is not to say Russia lacks ambition or that it cannot be dangerous. It has invaded neighbors. It possesses a formidable nuclear arsenal. Its government operates with a sense of grievance and nostalgia that is at times weaponized. But it is not the USSR. It cannot project power across continents in the same way, and its shadow is long but not imperial. Western fears, when based on inaccurate comparisons, do more harm than good. They exaggerate the threat, fuel old narratives, and overlook the real dynamics of a changed world. By equating Russia with the Soviet Union, we dismiss the sovereignty of 14 other nations, each with its own people, its own history, and its own future. So let's tell it straight. The USSR was a superpower because it was a union, massive, diverse, brutal, but collaborative. Modern Russia is a post-imperial state grappling with its place in the world. The two are linked by history, but they are not the same. To fear them as if they were is to live in a past that no longer exists.